All right, so today we're diving into Dan Brown's The Da Vinci Code.
Oh, wow.
It's a book,
Okay.
but there's a lot to unpack
I
here.
bet.
We're going to see if any of the wild claims about history and Christianity are actually true.
Okay. So the Da Vinci Code, I mean, this book was everywhere,
Yeah,
right? It was huge. And people loved it, this mix of history and art and conspiracy,
yeah.
but it also caused a lot of controversy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, especially among historians and theologians, because Brown claimed that his thriller, which is full of secrets about Jesus, Mary Magdalene, Secret Societies, was based on actual historical facts.
So how much of it is actually true,
Right.
especially when it's written so excitingly?
Yeah.
Where do we even start with a book like this?
Well, I think let's start with some of Brown's most kind of crazy claims. The things that really got people talking. Like, first, he says that Jesus was actually married to Mary Magdalene, and that their descendants are alive today,
Wait a minute.
protected by this powerful ancient organization.
So Jesus was married,
That's what he says.
and his family's still around. That's different from what I learned about Jesus.
That's just the start.
Oh boy.
He introduces the Priory of Sion,
Okay.
this supposed secret society, founded way back in 1099.
Okay.
And according to Brown, they've been protecting this incredible secret, and they have ties to Leonardo da Vinci.
Now we're talking secret societies, hidden families, Leonardo da Vinci. It's all very intriguing.
It's a good story.
Yeah, but is any of it true?
Well, that's why we're here. Brown says that the Priory of Sion is real. This ancient group, long history, shrouded in secrecy. But this analysis we've been looking at reveals a very different story. Turns out the Priory of Sion wasn't founded in 1099. It was actually founded in 1956.
Hold on.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
So this secret society that is like the whole point of the book is a modern invention.
Yeah.
That changes everything.
It is, and it gets even more interesting. The founder of this priory, a guy named Pierre Plantard, actually planted fake documents
What?
in the Bibliothèque Nationale in Paris to back up his claims.
No way.
Yeah, these documents actually name people like Leonardo da Vinci, Isaac Newton, Botticelli as Grand Masters of the Priory.
You're kidding me. This whole secret society thing is basically a hoax. I can't believe I fell for that.
Happens to the best of us.
It makes you wonder how many other things of the book are made up too.
Yeah, that's the risk you take when you blend fact and fiction, especially with history and religion. And you're right, this whole Priory of Sion thing, this fake lineage for Jesus, is the basis for this whole conspiracy theory.
Right.
This idea that the church has been covering up the truth. But when you look at the actual history, it all just falls apart.
So Brown's story, like right from the beginning, is wrong.
Yeah, pretty much.
What about the other groups that he mentions, like Opus Dei? They're like pretty scary in the book.
Yeah.
A shadowy, powerful force.
The Da Vinci Code makes it seem like Opus Dei are like the villains. They're controlling everything behind the scenes.
Okay.
But the analysis we're looking at, it makes it clear that Opus Dei is actually a part of the Catholic Church.
Okay.
Like officially a personal prelature.
What's that?
It was founded in 1928, and most of its members are just ordinary lay people.
Huh. So not some secret group in the Vatican.
Not even close.
More like just encouraging people to find meaning in their life.
Right, exactly. Big difference from how Brown describes them.
Yeah.
He uses information to make the story more exciting, even if it's not totally true.
Okay, so we've got a fake secret society and a Catholic group that's not so bad after all.
Right.
What about all that stuff about the Knights Templar?
Oh, yeah.
Brown connects them to the Priory of Sion and their search for the Holy Grail,
Oh, yes.
which, according to him, is Mary Magdalene.
Right. He's good at telling stories.
Yeah.
But again, he plays fast and loose with the historical facts.
Hmm.
The Knights Templar were real, a medieval crusading order,
Okay.
but their job was to protect pilgrims who were traveling to the Holy Land, not to track down some secret family.
So more like ancient bodyguards than guardians of a secret bloodline.
Exactly. They were based in Jerusalem, and they did become wealthy and powerful, but there's no historical proof that they were connected to the Priory of Sion or had anything to do with the Grail. Brown just uses their story to add some mystery to his book.
It sounds like Brown just took bits and pieces of history and made up a story, even if it meant changing the facts.
I think you're right.
And speaking of mystery, what about Leonardo da Vinci? Brown says that he was a Grand Master of the Priory of Sion,
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
hiding secret messages about Jesus and Mary Magdalene in his paintings.
Yeah, especially in the Last Supper.
That was my favorite part of the book, the idea that Leonardo hid clues right there in plain sight. But is it true?
Well, this is where it gets interesting. This analysis says that Brown's interpretation of Leonardo's work, especially The Last Supper, is just completely wrong. The analysis says that Leonardo was just following traditional Christian ways of painting, nothing out of the ordinary.
But doesn't Brown say that the person next to Jesus is Mary Magdalene, not John the Apostle, and that this is proof that they were a couple?
Yeah, that's his theory.
Okay.
But the analysis has proof. Leonardo's own sketches for the painting, he actually labels the apostle as John.
Ah, so the person is John. Like, he's usually painted as young in those pictures.
Yeah, exactly. That pretty much blows Brown's theory out of the water.
It does. And remember how Brown describes the Last Supper as a fresco?
Yeah,
And makes a big deal about how it's falling apart?
right.
Well, this analysis says it's not actually a fresco. It's a tempera painting on dry plaster.
Yep.
Completely different. And that explains why it deteriorated so fast. Nothing to do with any secret messages.
It seems like Brown got a lot of the details about the art wrong, too. Like, he cared more about telling a good story than sticking to the fact.
That's what it seems like.
And to top it all off, the analysis says that all the evidence, even Leonardo's will, says that he was a devout Christian. He didn't believe the things Brown says he did.
So this image of Leonardo as a mastermind of secrets,
Right,
part of this group trying to reveal the truth about Jesus and Mary Magdalene,
right.
it's all wrong.
Pretty much. It falls apart when you look at the evidence.
It's amazing how this analysis goes through each of Brown's claims, and they all turn out to be false.
It is, and it makes you think, how many people just believed all this without questioning it?
Yeah, no, I did. Speaking of questioning, Brown's version of Mary Magdalene is very different than how she's portrayed in the Bible.
That's for sure.
He says that she was Jesus's wife
Right.
and the Holy Grail, carrying his bloodline.
That's a pretty big change from what most Christians believe, wouldn't you say? And this analysis is very clear. There's absolutely no evidence, historically or in the Bible, to support the idea that Jesus and Mary Magdalene were married, or that she was the Holy Grail.
What about the Gnostic Gospels?
He uses those, but the analysis disagrees with how he interprets them.
Okay.
Now, the Gnostic Gospels, like the Gospel of Philip, are interesting writings, but they were written centuries after the canonical Gospels, the ones that are actually in the New Testament.
So they're more like interpretations, not actual accounts of Jesus' life.
Right. They offer an interesting perspective, but you can't take them as historical fact.
That makes sense. So we've talked about the Priory of Sion,
Right.
Opus Dei, the Knights Templar, Leonardo da Vinci,
Yes.
even Mary Magdalene. What about the Council of Nicaea? Brown says that Constantine basically took over Christianity at the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD,
Oh, yeah.
forcing the idea of Jesus' divinity
Right.
by a close vote.
Yeah, that's another one where he's kind of playing with history. The analysis explains that while Constantine was definitely important in the early church, he didn't invent the idea of Jesus' divinity. Early Christians already believed that before the Council of Nicaea.
Oh, really? So the idea of Jesus being divine is older than Constantine.
Definitely.
There are writings from before the council that show that Jesus was already worshipped as divine.
That's right.
So what was the Council of Nicaea about then?
Well, the council was mainly about debates about the nature of Christ, not whether he was divine, but how his divinity connected to his humanity. They were arguing about the rules, not whether the game existed,
Okay.
And the vote wasn't nearly as close as Brown makes it seem. It suggests that most early Christians agreed on this.
So it seems like Brown kind of twisted the council's purpose to fit his story.
Yeah.
It's amazing how this analysis just takes apart Brown's claims one by one. Is there anything in the Da Vinci Code that's actually historically accurate?
Well, you have to remember, it's a work of fiction.
Right.
It's meant to entertain, not to be a history book, but it's how Brown mixes the two, saying his story is based on facts. That's what can be misleading.
It's true. He makes it seem like he's uncovering these hidden truths, like secrets that have been kept for centuries.
Right. That's what makes it so compelling.
Right.
That's why this analysis is so helpful. It makes you think critically about what you're reading.
Okay.
And to question your sources, especially when it comes to history or religion.
Right. Not all that glitters is gold.
Exactly.
Makes you want to double check everything you read.
It does.
What else does this analysis say about Brown's use of history? Does he distort anything else?
Well, let's look at how he uses famous works of art to back up his theories. For example, he points to Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa
Okay.
as an example of hidden symbolism. He claims that the name Mona Lisa comes from two Egyptian gods, Amun and Isis, and that the painting is actually a representation of androgyny.
So he's saying that Leonardo was like secretly putting pagan beliefs in his Christian art.
Exactly. Pretty bold claim, right?
Yeah.
But, as you can probably guess, the analysis says this isn't true.
Oh, really?
The name Mona Lisa actually comes from Giorgio Vasari. He was Leonardo's biographer. And he referred to the subject of the painting as Mona Lisa, which is short for Madonna Lisa.
Okay.
Which basically means My Lady Lisa.
So nothing to do with Egyptian gods.
Nope.
Just a misunderstanding of the name.
Exactly. And this interpretation of the painting as a symbol of androgyny.
Yeah.
It's also a bit of a stretch. I mean, the Mona Lisa smile is mysterious and has led to a lot of different interpretations over the years.
Right.
But there's no evidence to suggest that Leonardo meant it to be about, a merging of male and female.
It sounds like Brown was choosing details and interpreting them in a way that fit his story rather than using real evidence. Like he had this big theory and then just looked for anything that would support it, even if it meant twisting the truth.
That's a very insightful observation.
Thanks.
And the analysis also points out that Brown's description of the Mona Lisa as being neither male nor female is just plain wrong.
Huh.
I mean, while the painting has a certain ambiguity, most art historians agree with that it's clearly a woman.
So it seems like Brown might have been projecting his own ideas onto Leonardo's work instead of just looking at the art itself. This analysis is really good at pointing out these inconsistencies.
It is. And this brings us to another important point the analysis urges. Brown's claims have had a big impact on how people view Christianity, especially Catholicism. He paints a pretty negative picture of the church, portraying it as this organization that's been hiding the truth about Jesus and Mary Magdalene for centuries.
Yeah, the book definitely presents a very different way of looking at the history of Christianity. One that's full of secrets and conspiracies.
Right. It makes you question everything you thought you knew.
It does.
And while it's good to be critical of institutions, and to look at things from different angles, it's also important to be fair and accurate. The analysis reminds us that Brown's version of history is very selective and often doesn't give you the whole picture.
So what does the analysis say about how Brown's book has affected people's understanding of Christianity? Did it help them learn more, or did it spread false information?
Well, it acknowledges that the Da Vinci Code did get people interested in early Christianity and alternative interpretations of the Bible, which, is not necessarily a bad thing, but it also warns that Brown's claims are based on misunderstandings and distortions of historical facts.
So it's an entertaining book, but not exactly the best source of information about Christianity.
Right. The analysis argues that the book has actually made a lot of conspiracy theories popular.
Okay.
And it's given people the wrong idea about the teachings and practices of the Catholic Church.
Like, what kind of examples?
For instance, Brown claims that ancient Jewish tradition had sexual rituals in the temple, and that they believed in a powerful female god alongside God.
Wow. He's basically trying to rewrite history to fit his narrative.
And the analysis points out that these claims are just not true.
Okay.
The idea of God in Judaism is that there is only one God, and there's no evidence to support the idea of a female counterpart. These kinds of claims, presented as facts in the novel, can be really misleading for people who don't know the history.
So, while the Da Vinci Code might be a fun and interesting read, it's important not to take everything it says about history as fact.
Exactly. It's not just about the specific claims either. The analysis really takes issue with Brown's whole approach to history. For example, he suggests that the Bible has been changed and added to many times throughout history.
Okay.
Implying that there's no one true version of the text.
Oh, I remember that. It's like he's saying the Bible we have now is somehow corrupted or incomplete, that there are these secret truths hidden within it.
Exactly. It plays into that idea that the church is hiding something. But the analysis makes it clear that while there have been translations and changes in wording over time, the basic message of the Bible has stayed the same.
So no secret meanings or lost chapters. The Bible we have is a true representation of the original.
That's what the analysis argues, and it debunks another one of Brown's claims, this one about the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Okay.
He says that the Dead Sea Scrolls have gospels that Constantine tried to suppress. But this is wrong on multiple levels.
How so?
Well, first, as we already talked about, Constantine didn't try to suppress any Gospels.
Right.
Second, the Dead Sea Scrolls were found in 1947, not around 1950 like the book says.
Okay.
And most importantly, the Dead Sea Scrolls don't have any Gospels in them at all, let alone ones about Jesus. They're mostly made up of Hebrew scriptures and other Jewish writings.
So Brown got a lot of basic historical facts wrong. I mean, I get that it's a story, but to mess up such simple details, it's surprising, especially for a book that claims to be based on facts.
You're right, and the analysis emphasizes how these inaccuracies add to a distorted and sensationalized view of history. It criticizes Brown for mixing fact and fiction in a way that can mislead readers, especially those who may not be familiar with the historical context.
It's really eye-opening to see how many of Brown's claims just fall apart when you look at them more closely.
It is. It's a great reminder to never take anything you read for granted,
Right.
especially when it comes to historical claims.
This whole deep dive has been a real eye-opener. I still enjoy the Da Vinci Code as a story, but knowing how much of it is based on misinterpretations or just made-up things makes me wonder about how it's affected people's understanding of history.
I know what you mean. Stories are powerful, but we have to remember that they can shape how we see the world.
Yeah, so we've seen how this analysis really debunks a lot of Brown's claims about the Priory of Sion, Opus Dei, the Knights Templar, Leonardo da Vinci, Mary Magdalene, the Council of Nicaea, and even the Bible.
It's a pretty thorough critique.
It is, and I think what we can learn from this is the importance of critical thinking, and doing good research. It's easy to get caught up in a good story, but it's important to question where the information is coming from, especially when it's presented as factual.
That's so true.
The truth is usually more complicated and nuanced than a fictional thriller might suggest. And sometimes figuring what's true and what's not could be a pretty fascinating journey in itself.
I agree.
The Da Vinci Code is a good story, but we have to remember that it's not a reliable source of information about history. Always question things, do your research, and never stop learning.
Well said. So to all our listeners who love the Da Vinci Code, we encourage you to look further into the real history behind the book's claims. You might be surprised by what you find.
Yeah.
And remember, truth is often stranger than fiction.
This deep dive has been a fascinating look at where history, art, and conspiracy theories meet. We hope it's made you think more critically about what you read and to approach historical claims with a healthy amount of skepticism.
And don't forget, there's always more to learn. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep digging deeper.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll be back next time to explore another interesting topic. Yeah, well said. It's been really interesting to go through this analysis and see how it debunks, all these claims, like one by one. It's like we're peeling back the layers and seeing what's really there.
It has been a fun deep dive, and it makes you think about, the responsibility of authors when they mix fact and fiction, especially with, sensitive topics like religion.
Yeah, you have to wonder if Brown's book, even though it's a good story, maybe helped spread some misinformation about history.
It's possible. Authors do have a lot of influence.
They do. One thing that stood out to me was how Brown portrays Leonardo da Vinci. Like he's this mystical figure, a genius, part of a secret society, hiding codes in his art. It's all very exciting.
It's a romantic view of him for sure. But as the analysis shows, it's not really how it was. I mean, Leonardo was brilliant, no doubt, an amazing artist and inventor. But he was also a man of his time, a devout Christian who worked within the tradition of Renaissance art.
Yeah, he wasn't some outsider. He was a respected artist who created these incredible works of art that reflected what people believed back then.
Exactly. The analysis does a good job of putting his work in context. And, it's important to remember that art can be interpreted in many ways. Just because Brown sees secret symbols doesn't mean that Leonardo intended them to be there.
Yeah, we should be careful about, reading too much into art, especially when those interpretations are based on claims that might not be true.
Right. We can admire art for its beauty, how it makes us feel.
Yeah.
But we shouldn't treat it like some kind of hidden history book. Sometimes a painting is just a painting.
That's a good point. We can enjoy the Da Vinci Code for what it is, a story, without believing everything it says about history. We can have fun with the mystery, but also be aware of, where it goes wrong.
I agree. And that's what this analysis really highlights, the importance of separating fact from fiction, especially when you're dealing with complex and sensitive topics like history and religion.
Well said. So to everyone listening who enjoyed the Da Vinci Code, we encourage you to, to do some research, look into the real history behind the book. You might be surprised by what you find.
Yeah, the truth can be pretty amazing.
It can. This deep dive has been, really interesting look at at history, art, and conspiracy theories. We hope it's encouraged you to be a more critical reader and to be a little skeptical when you come across historical claims.
That's right. Don't just accept things at face value.
Exactly. And, never stop learning. There's always more to discover. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. That's it for today. We'll see you next time for another exploration into the world of ideas.